Hey, I'm here with Branden Coluccio of Coluccio Capital, a person with whom I've become relatively close over the past, I guess, year we've been working together. And it might be helpful, Branden, for you to tell us a little bit about what prompted that relationship.
So I am currently under indictment and going to be sentenced here in about a week. It'll be May 22nd. And a while back, I started following Justin and his work, and eventually built up the courage to reach out to him and had a great conversation.
How long ago was that, Branden?
I reached out to Justin probably in September or October of 2019, somewhere in that area. But I'd been following his work on YouTube, and I'd actually seen some of your videos with him as well for probably 6 months prior to that. Right about when I got indicted, the first thing you do, you go on the internet. How the heck do I help you reconcile with this situation? How do I, make this better in any way? And so Justin has been a really valuable resource, but he's really the reason you and I started working together. And so,
what's important there is that you started preparing yourself for a sentencing hearing. We're now in May of 2020, and correct. You said you started preparing you reached out in October of 2019.
Yeah.
But it was 6 months before that. So a full year before you ever went in front of a sentencing hearing, you started to do research and figure out, what do I got to do? And go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think the biggest mistake I made was waiting to call Justin. I wish that I had reached out to him as soon as I got indicted. And my hesitation was, well, maybe it's too early. Is he going to be able to do anything? And you don't even know the answer to that question unless you call the guy and ask him. So I wish that I had reached out sooner. So that would be my advice to anyone going through this situation. Reach out as soon as possible, because I think you'll be able to affect the most change in your situation, or to have the biggest impact the earlier you start the work.
What is the work? What did Justin do, or how did it, walk a person through what the step was? Because you didn't talk to me first. You talked to Justin. Help us understand the process going forward after that. What do you advise you to do?
So Justin really, he was, not only someone who was, I guess, comforting is probably the right word. He's a guy who's been through it. He's helped probably 1,000+ clients go through this very situation. So immediately he's able to empathize with what you're going through, because he deals with this every day. So just having that person to go to is extremely valuable. When I first got indicted, I didn't feel like I couldn't go to anyone. Obviously you have family and friends who people support you and love you, but I didn't know anybody who'd been through this situation. And so that was step one, was him kind of helping me understand that, look, this is going to be difficult, but we're going to be able to get through this, and you're going to be okay. Right. Step two was him advising me on, how do I hold my lawyer more accountable? He asked me straight up, do I like my lawyer? And, I like my lawyer, but, lawyers are lawyers. They have a specific job that they have to do. And so he gave me some advice on very, I'll say, critical questions to ask my lawyer, to make sure that I was helping to set myself up for the best possible outcome in the situation. And then finally, he, helped me gather a whole bunch of character reference letters, advised me on how I should structure those letters, who I should go to, how many, what type of impact and message they're supposed to deliver. He helped me, advised me on making sure that I got my personal narrative into my probation interview, and also helped me prepare for that interview. He helped me in a variety of ways. And also, I would say one of the biggest was introducing me to you, where we began to kind of speak and communicate and work together.
And what is some of the work, because that's a more advanced process that you went through, and a significant investment of time. Tell us about that working experience that transitioned from Justin's work into working with me.
Well, so I wanted to document my process. So it was really an expansion of the narrative project, which is, mine is about 10, 11 pages. But I wanted to, I realized, through talking with you and Justin, that I actually have a lot of value to add to the world, which I didn't really see myself. And so you guys helped me identify some of the areas where I could add value. And so the expansion of that narrative project ultimately became a book project, and, an explanation of, hey, here's what I'm doing to solve my problem, and here's what I'm doing to reconcile. And so working with you helped me identify, kind of that structure, helped me identify what was the best story to tell, how to tell it, And then, ultimately we created that work product.
But in addition to the work product of a book, we created other ancillary work that went along with that book. And what is that? What is that second, that additional phase of work?
Sure. So we created a book, and then there's actually a self-directed course that goes along with it. And the whole purpose of this project, I call it my passion project, is to distribute it for free to whether it's jails, prisons, universities, nonprofits, underprivileged communities, whatever it is. The whole purpose is to be able to give back and to do this completely free because, as I said before, you and Justin helped me identify areas where I could add a lot of value, things that I didn't necessarily see when I started the process. And so that project is really a way of me reconciling with society and also myself. It's been a very cathartic process. I've had the opportunity to speak before a small group of university students studying business ethics, which was a very rewarding process. I'm now going to be doing that even more. And I wouldn't have been able to even begin this whole process if it wasn't for you guys.
Well, we're able to take your work and introduce it into jails and prisons where you can show a massive impact on society by your bringing your content into jails and prisons, and we're able to document that for you in a manner that is going to influence the rest of your journey. You've already had some experiences with that in speaking with your probation officer. Tell us how your probation officer responded to all of this work that you have been able to show. I'd like you to just walk us through what that experience was like.
It was an incredible experience. And even my lawyer, when I showed up and I said, I told you I was writing a book. I wrote this book, look. And he was sort of in disbelief. I don't think he believed that I was actually doing any of this. I had told him about it. But when he saw it, he was blown away. He's told me multiple times, I've never had a defendant do anything even close to the work that you have done. And like nowhere near it. He's been, doing this for 35 years plus. And so that's a big thing coming straight from my lawyer. The probation officer, he'd asked me a question. He asked me, what are you doing to reconcile? How are you kind of feeling about this whole process? And I was very honest. I said, look, it's obviously been an evolution. It's been very challenging. I've had, difficult moments, but my whole goal here is to take one of the worst possible situations someone can go through in their life and somehow find a way to turn it into a positive thing that can benefit other people and benefit society. And so I then explained that we've developed this book, and at the time we were still in the process of working on finishing the course, but I had a pre-production copy of my book. And so I was able to actually hand him a physical copy in my probation interview. And I think that's a very different message than me just explaining, hey, I'm working on this book, I'm working on this course. He's actually able to touch it and see it and feel it. He took pictures of it. He kind of flipped through the pages. He asked me what my plans for distribution were. Was I going to be charging for it? I explained to him that it was all going to be completely free, which is why it was built the way it was built electronically. You can get a free electronic version on the website. It can also be purchased on Amazon. But the whole point was to make it very, very accessible for as many people as possible, extremely scalable. And so, he was actually giving me ideas, well, why don't you sell the book? Why don't you sell the course? Then you could donate it to this nonprofit or that nonprofit or some underprivileged organization. And so he was actually giving me ideas on things that I could do to help kind of expand the impact, which was a really rewarding experience, I guess. It's a little weird to say that in that type of a situation, but we were able to have a really positive dialogue, and it completely changed the tone of the interview.
It's frankly not too much different from the work you do as an investment banker in, selling the value of a company. You're selling the value of yourself, and you've already gotten an ROI because you influenced the way the probation officer saw you, which in turn influenced a very positive pre-sentence investigation report, which will influence your judge, which will influence the people you're going to meet in prison, your case managers and so on, which will influence when you get out of prison. And then by the continuing work, by creating this digital content, you're influencing what eventually is going to be on your Google page. You know, you're kind of taking the Michael Milken approach of saying, I'm going to give back to society in such a way that eventually that's going to push down any negative things about me. You're starting to control your own narrative. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity for me to work with you personally.
Thank you. Yeah.
I learned a great deal through the process, and I'm really glad to see the outcome that we're getting, which has already influenced the process, and we'll check with you after sentencing with hopes that you get the outcome that we expected there as well.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.